Until I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was disgusted with what I saw. So I said, you got to make a change, man.
It's all about fun, laugh, and getting through life. That's what it is.
I find you have everything to gain with Christ, and without him, everything to lose.
Said I'm gonna lay you down, just like a bridge over troubled water.
Yeah, yeah. Hallelujah.
Hi, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, as you can see, that's why I miss going to church, just to hear all that good singing and getting the word. But tonight we're going to be talking about the new church, moving forward or staying the same. And our guest tonight is the Pastor Craig Pickett from Breakthrough Ministries from Concord, North Carolina. So let's welcome him to the show. Hello there, Pastor.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Glad to be with you tonight.
Well, glad to
Great
have
to
you
be with
tonight. We got a hot topic to talk about tonight, the church. So with everything that have happened, the church being shut down, what do you see the effect that has been on, I'll say, the Christian people that are accustomed to coming to church, every Sunday and during the week? What type of effect have you seen happening with, people and even the people at your church?
Yeah, that is a great segue. A lot of it is one is that as saints, and particularly as individuals who love going to church, we miss the fellowship with the saints. We've missed the opportunity to talk to one another. Our church is a church where we all don't mind greeting and giving one another a holy hug. And that part we have truly missed, just having the opportunity to embrace one another, to encourage one another, to see one another, to smile at one another. It has truly had an impact on us as far as not having that close fellowship. It's not the same as although we may see one another through different media set ways, but it's not the same as being in person and having that opportunity to just hug one another, greet one another, and enjoy the fellowship of one another.
Yeah. Well, I know we can't hug and kiss on each other like we normally used to do and everything like that. But like when I talk to my friends and different people and stuff like that, I say, well, you know what? You can still have church at home. because church is in you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a building that you go
Mm-hmm.
to. So, but church is in you, so you can still have your service right at home, have your
Yeah.
singing, everything right at home because of what we are going through. It doesn't mean that you don't stop doing fellowship, because you can talk to people over the phone and pray with them over the phone. And, even though it's different, but we still can serve God because it's supposed to be in us. It's in us.
I think that's the best part of it too, is realizing that the church really is in us. And whether you're in a building or not in the building, but just being able to share with one another, or to even to talk to one another, and encourage one another. But the church really is in us. And I believe this is an opportunity for us to grow even stronger in our walk with Christ. And so this is, I think, is a great, although it may seem like a unique, different time period, but it is, I think it's an opportunity that the Lord has given us to see ministry in a different way and in a different perspective. And I think when all of this is over, I believe we ought to be better than the way we went in.
Do
We
you
hope.
think that's going to happen? Go ahead on, Tiffany.
No, I was just commenting saying I really hope that, this does change the minds and hearts of many people. But even during this time, have you seen, more people coming on board with your church? Even though I know your church is online at this point, but you're getting more viewerships at this time?
I think this is the beauty of the time we're in, because let me typically we have noonday prayer, Bible study, regular service, and now that we are operating in a different manner, we're reaching people far more than we would if we were just in our church, in our building itself. So, yes, we're having folks, although we're in North Carolina, right next door to Charlotte, North Carolina. We have folks who have dialed into on our prayer conference from as far as Oklahoma, as far as Raleigh,
Wow.
individuals from as far as Pennsylvania. They have chimed in with us even in Bible study. We have never had that type of impact or that type of service before, because we were right here in Concord. So it really only reached the ones that was here, but you would see it on Facebook. But now there's the opportunity to to link in, and also to ask questions during Bible study and be part of that as if you're right there in the service. So we're reaching far more folks. We just looked at just Sunday service, and the number of individuals are like 10 times what we would have normally had on a regular service. And then the views was probably almost like 20 times of what we would normally have on a regular service on Sunday. So I think this Sunday as well was just a great indication of the opportunity to reach individuals that we haven't been able to reach, and to encourage individuals that we haven't been able to reach before.
Mhm.
So, Pastor, let me ask you something. I mean, because you think of different things when something really, tremendous happen. Do you see this by some accident that this pandemic struck? Because I just find that it's like this is something that has never ever happened before, and it's not the United States was shut down; it was the whole world that was
Yeah,
shut down. So the first
yeah,
thing I think about was like, you know what? This ain't about no coincidence. I say God just got tired of these people and all they mess. You weren't coming to church to start with, so now the church is closed down. You can't come. So now what you complaining about? You wasn't coming when the church was open. So the thing about it is, I just had this feeling like I just felt like God is just tired. He wants people to get it together and come to serve Him and stop serving the devil and stop
hmm,
treating each other so mean and not being kind to one another. And I just think sometimes when things like this happen, it happens for a reason.
the thing that I believe that's so pervasive in what has happened is, I often try to go back to what the Bible says, and even what we've seen in the book of Exodus, in the early book in Exodus, where the Lord sent plagues, but it was to get their attention. It was to show them. It was to get them to trust and turn to him. And I believe this is one of the things that when we see in the book of Exodus, the 10 plagues that the Lord sent, the Bible said the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh
Right.
wanted to let them go, but the Bible said the Lord, the one that hardened his heart to get their attention, to get them to turn to him, that they were so afraid of Pharaoh. And God wanted them to learn to seek him, love him, and trust and depend on him. And when I look at what's happening here, I believe the Lord is trying to take away every excuse. He wants us to turn to him. He wants us to love on him. He wants us to come back to him. We often hear the verse of 2 Chronicles 2:7 and 2 Chronicles 7:14. The Bible says, "If my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, the Bible said, the Lord said, then will I hear from heaven. I forgive their sin and I heal their land." And I believe in everything that we're seeing here, I believe God is trying to get us to turn back to him, to turn to him, to love him, to call on him and get away from every excuse. When you look at it, we were sharing in Bible study, how no one could have written a script, or no one could have came up with a scenario that we're seeing today. That it didn't just impact the less fortunate, but wealthy folks, doctors, lawyers. It wasn't just in the U.S., but worldwide. So I think the opportunity for us is, if we're not careful, we'll miss what the Lord is saying, because sometimes we're trying to get back to the normal where the Lord is trying to tell us that this may be the new normal, that he wants us to turn. So you take away every excuse where we might would have had, I can't go to church. How hard is it to sit on to dial in right on your phone to pray or listen to a word? And sometimes people still make excuses and won't even go that far.
But did you really think that people will change? Because I'm even looking at with the pandemic, when they tell them not to go outside, make sure you wear a mask, make sure you keep your distance. But people are still on top of each other. They're still not wearing masks. So when I look at that and then I compare it to people going to church, I say to myself sometimes, will people really change? Do you think people really are going to change? Because when we talk about the new church, to me, the new church means you're not going to ever be the same that you were when we were going to church before. Church is not going to be like that anymore.
I think one of the things that when we go back to the Bible and I look at it in the book of Exodus, the Lord had sent more than one plague because he knew that it wasn't going to get right the first one. And then he sent another one, and then another one, and then another. And you look at even now, everything that was happening, one would say, man, the Lord is perhaps trying to talk to me. We need to change. But I think most folks, or not most, but a lot of folks really don't see this as a time to turn back to the Lord. They're just looking at their situation and they want to just get back to business as usual. They want to get back to just the regular way things used to be. And to say that we're going to get back to the way things used to be, it could be many, many, many years if we ever get back to that, just because of what has happened and the depth of what has happened. And I believe one is that if the church now, one of the things I share with some of our pastors in our jurisdiction in North Carolina is that every church is a mega church now. You don't have to be confined to just four walls. You can reach out to as many people as you desire by using the tools that's available. I believe we should be thinking from a different perspective, a different level. Yes, we want to get back in, but I believe that there's more to it than God wants us to see versus just being out for a few months during this virus and then going back to business as usual. I believe there's more to it that he wants us to see and more to it that he wants us to recognize as people, as we begin to reach out to others, as we begin to do ministry from a different perspective. I believe we live in a different time now than we used to, and we should consider taking advantage of the opportunities that we have to reach people and encourage people.
Yes, Pastor, I definitely agree with those facts that you mentioned. But we're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're also going to have Pastor Mac.
Okay.
So we'll be right back.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Mills, a singer, songwriter, and actress. Today, I'm asking you to make sure everyone in your household is counted in the 2020 census. It's our chance to shape the future for our family and community for the next 10 years. By April 1st, your household will receive an invitation to complete the census. Counting everyone in my household, including my son who has Down syndrome, will help ensure that our family and our community gets federal resources to support health care, accessibility services, and more. The online census questionnaire is accessible to people with a wide range of disabilities. You can also respond by phone or by mail. It's easy and confidential. To learn more, visit 2020census.gov.
Hi, we're back. We're keeping it real with Shannon live. Today's topic is the new church moving forward, or should we stay the same? And joining us is Pastor Krista Mack from the Deliverance Tabernacle in Brooklyn, New York. Hello, Pastor Mack.
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, Pastor Mack lost her connection, so hopefully she may be able to join before the show ends. We hoping so.
Okay. All right. Hopefully. Well, Pastor Pickett. Well, before we went to the break, we was talking about the other issues, but moving forward, what do you see the new church looking like now, particularly with all this new technology that we have? Because now we've been able to do Bible study, like you said, and reach more people. You still can do your meetings, your leadership meetings. You can do a lot of stuff on the Zoom and still be reaching people. So do you see this still be included in the church, and also even some Zoom church services and stuff?
I hope so, because I think this is, to me, a way that not only do we enhance ministry, we enhance getting the word out. I hope as churches, as a body of Christ, I hope that as we go through this season, that we're developing, and I know this is new for a lot of us, it's new for a lot of churches, but my goal and my thought is that we take where we are, and as we continue to develop where we are, and even as we go back in the church, not to go back, not to lose the progress that we made, but enhancing from what we've done, taking our meetings, our Zoom Bible study, and instill that we can enhance those, that we can put those out where individuals can still be part of that. I think there's a way that we can do this. And I think this is some of the things that we've been looking at as a ministry, how we can further advance or enhance what we're doing, and using technology to reach others, to use technology. Even back in the ministry, there are tools now that you can use cellular phones and along with a mixing device and enhance ministry. And there you can still reach out to others. So I think there's tools with Zoom and the conference calls and things that has been in place, or at least that ministers are using, that I hope ministry would not lose that ground, but continue to press forward and to make the ministries even better, to reach individuals that might not be church. But you never know, whenever you start to reach someone, that you might touch someone who you might wouldn't have touched just on a regular Sunday, but just going out to door to door. Great opportunity if we take advantage of it.
Yeah. And how about will you think about including, when you do Bible study, even if we do ever come to the point where we can all fellowship again and meet up, is that you will then stream it live so that people who are not available at that time now can continue to be involved in Bible study and church services.
Yeah, that's the whole essence of taking where we are and continue to enhance it. So even when we go back from our regular 11 o'clock service, we ought to be continuing to stream live, just like we're doing Bible study. If we can continue to put that in place, to use Bible study as well. I believe that we're connecting to individuals who we would have never reached had not this had happened. And so I don't want to lose the progress that we're making and the individuals that we're reaching and the individuals that we're connecting with. So we're definitely want to try to use as much as possible every tool here from Zoom to Facebook and YouTube, and using these tools to continue to reach folks. Like I say, over in Oklahoma, Philadelphia, in areas that we've never been to, but or perhaps we wouldn't have had a chance to minister to had this not happened. So as a church, our goal is to continue that. One of the things I would say is that there's a church here in Charlotte, not I would say in North Carolina, that's been doing this technique for quite some time. And they use what is called satellite church. And they reach out to ministries and they have satellite campus where they're reaching folks, not just in the building, but so many other locations outside of Charlotte and Raleigh area where they're reaching folks. And I think that's a way that we can enhance. I think it's a way of thinking somewhat out of the box. I think it's a way of using a lot of wisdom to be included in what we do in order to become more effective, in order to help win more souls to the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm. Pastor, let me ask you something. I mean, this might be out of the ordinary aspect, but I've been thinking about all this kind of stuff. Now, during this time when we were shut down, it was an opportunity for us to have time to think, reflect, and think about how we want to change our lives and how we're going to do better in our lives and how, we're going to serve God more or whatever. So when we were shut down, everything was like quiet. So you figure everybody was, really reflecting and getting it together and stuff like that. But then as soon as they started uplifting where you could come back outside again and do things that you were, it's almost like the people just went crazy all over again. So, I mean, do you actually think people are going to change even with this seriousness crisis that we're in? Because the behavior, so I mean, I don't understand it. It's not even in no spiritual way of behaving the way some people are acting. Like, what happened during the shutdown? Whether you thinking of doing anything during the shutdown, whether you thinking like, oh, you know what, I better get myself together, maybe I better start praying a little bit more or whatever. It's like there's no change. So do you see, or what do you feel why people act like
One of the things I think we can see again is that even in the Bible, this is so relative to what we see over in the book of, first I would say the book of Judges, because when you look in the book of Judges, that is what the book of Judges is all about. It was that after the Israelites came out of bondage, they would go right back to disobeying God. They was disobedient. They didn't look to God. They didn't depend on him until they got in trouble. And when they got in trouble, the Lord would raise up a judge. And as long as that judge was alive, they will obey until that person died or till the Lord gave them freedom out of that from being in bondage. I think we look at people the same way today, is that one of the things I said to when we first went into the shutdown, I reached out to our staff and to the men department and to the different members of our church, and as I was talking, and I said, I believe this is a time for us to reconnect, families reconnect, fathers becoming better fathers, teaching their children, getting close to them, start doing things we haven't been doing, where we've been dropping children off. This is an opportunity now for you to kind of to pick up instead of sitting home. I believe it would take more than just one plague. I don't think people just going through, and if we come out a vaccine, all the things people are looking for right now is a vaccine. And once they get out, a lot of just want to get back to business as usual. I think it would take more than that to make people turn from what we're seeing, because people are not right in a mindset of turning right now. They are just want to get back to business as usual. But I believe it's God's desire that we will turn to him, that we will think about where we are. It is desire that he loves us and he wants us to turn to him. But I don't think we're missing that, or that we're hitting that mark at this time.
I mean, I believe that for some people, that they have hit that mark. And it's always where some people just need a little bit more work and time. Because if this, losing so many lives, people losing close family members, if that didn't open your eyes, I don't know what will, but it's always that thing. God will bring you down to your knees.
Yes, yes. And like you
I
said,
think
that was a good time for family to get to know each other. Because what happened when all this took place, you realize how families did not know each other. They didn't know their kids because now they stuck in the house with the kids. They stuck in the house with the husband because no one talked to each other before. Everybody's on the phone. Nobody eats dinner together anymore. You can't even bring them to the table because they're on the phone talking. Nobody knows what's going on in the other person's life. Now all of a sudden you shut up with each other. So now everybody's going crazy. The kids are driving you crazy. It's because you never talked to each other before.
Yeah.
I think even so now is that until there's a point of really recognizing, because even now with the shut in is a lot would turn to their tablets, kids on their tablets, they're on Facebook, they're on doing a whole lot of things, and folks are still not taking advantage of this opportunity. I believe there may be some who are recognizing, I believe as saints begin to recognize even more of the opportunity that our family can connect closer. We can begin to bond more. We begin to see what's on their minds. There's a great opportunity if we just take advantage of it.
Yes, so true. Well, thank you. This has really been an interesting discussion about the new norm and how church is going to fall into line with the new norm. And we'd like to thank you, Pastor, for joining us today. It was a pleasure getting the
Yes,
word.
so glad you came. So glad you came. So look, we're gonna do what we have to do. We're gonna stay in prayer. Hopefully, other people will start thinking, staying on their knees and praying, because that's what we better be doing with all of this going on now. Because it's not just the virus going on; it's a whole lot of other stuff that's going on, and it's gonna be a while before we come out of this. And the only person gonna bring us out is the Master. So thank you all for joining us today. Make sure you uh, be in touch with us on Facebook and YouTube. And it's always, stay tuned in case you have some questions for the pastor in our after show. So you can stay on board until we come back for the after show. But thank you for joining us today. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. Be ready.
We are back for our after show. And Pastor, I don't know if anyone have any questions or comments for Pastor Pickett. Um,
Uh, well,
we have any
we have some
hellos for the pastor?
comments. We have some comments. Beverly Pickett said, "Preach, Pastor Pickett." Audrey Bullock said, "Very good topic. We need to turn to the Lord." And Julie Stribling, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, said she also enjoyed the topic.
Well, Pastor, as you can see that people are still struggling. They're still going through a lot. And, people are really, they was depending on this unemployment and what the government was giving you. And, I was listening to some of them the other day talking when the boss and them wanted them to come back to work. And a lot of the people didn't want to come back to work because they was getting unemployment and the extra money. And I was saying, well, it doesn't seem like they thinking ahead, because then what are you going to do when the money runs out from the unemployment or from the government? Because that's not going to last forever. They're only going to extend it for a couple more months to a year. So why wouldn't you be thinking and say, let me go on back to work while I have a job, rather than figure, because you was making a little more money now, you're looking at the present rather than in the future down the road. And when that all runs out, then it's like, what's going to happen then when you don't have any money at all coming in? And so we think people are robbing you and going crazy now. I'm like, well, what's going to happen then when you're not getting any money at all?
I think when you look at the and until there's a vaccine, we don't know how long this will last. And even after the vaccine does come about, it may still take time before things start to settle down. So you're absolutely right. You make the point of that. You can only go so long, and you see even now the debate about whether the $600 should stay in place, or should that be cut back to $200. So when you look at both Republican and Democrats are saying, Republicans are saying that money just encourage individuals not to go to work. And the Democrats are saying they need this during this time of pandemic. But at some point, it will become a challenge and a problem because that money will run low. And I think there's a lot of things that's being dealt with here. It's not only that you're running work concerned about going back to work, but also the concern about there's a virus out there, and the virus doesn't care. It doesn't matter. And folks, those who know that the virus can still kill individuals. So every precaution must be taken for folks to go back to work. And there's got to be trying to think about, how do I still provide for my family? How do I still make ends meet? When we're looking at schools now, I just heard on the news today, I think was that one school opened in Georgia just one day, and 26 children was infected by the virus after the first day of school. So parents are still concerned about, how do I have to work, but how do I take care of my child? So there's a lot at stake whenever you're looking at this situation that we're in right now. Definitely, we need prayer. Definitely, we need the Lord. Definitely, we have to turn to the Lord to help, that He will bring healing, that He will bring a solution. But it's one of those things. Is as much as there's a lot of things that's being mixed in the pot there, as far as that's on parents and people's hearts at this time.
Well, I know parents are worried about, their kids going back to school, to the building per se. And I know you have to make a choice. I mean, now they're setting it up whether you can eat, so the kids could either go 2 days a week and then they do virtual learning at home, or you can do 100% virtual learning at home, or, my thing is with that is like, where you can't put a plan together for the individual parent, because every parent is going to say something different. You have to have a couple of options for you to choose from. And then I feel that we got to choose one of those options and then see how it works or whatever. My thing is with the virtual learning, if it's too dangerous to open the schools, then the virtual learning, I see that the teachers should be on virtual learning, teaching each class. Not to come on for an hour and a half or so and do a couple of problems and a couple of this and that. If it's going to be full-time virtual learning because it's too dangerous to go to the school, then you have to teach the same subjects as if you would be teaching in school. So in other words, from 8:30 to 9:15, you teaching math, or from the next, time to that time, just like you was doing in regular school. Then I can see that, because if you're not doing that, what happens is when they come on and just give a few little samples, the rest of the time is turned over to the parent to teach the kid. Now that parent is working from home trying to save their job. And so how are they going to work from home and then sit with the kid to be doing the work when the teacher should be doing that work? That's the problem I have, because see, they wasn't teaching all the subjects on the virtual learning before. If you're going to teach the main classes, the reading, math, English, all of that kind of stuff, then I don't have a problem with it. Because otherwise, these kids are already falling behind in school. Yeah. They're already falling behind. And some of them are not ever going to catch up. Because if the parents are not working with their kids, because right now, you're going to have, as a parent, you have to save your own child. Because if they're not getting it, then you're going to have to be teaching it to them. Because later on, when time comes to take the test and all that kind of stuff, they don't want to hear anything what you have to say about the pandemic that's going on. So if we're going to do virtual learning from home, then the teacher has to be on there teaching each class, each period, as if we was in the classroom at school. Because if not, then how is the parent going to work from home and help teach their child at the same time? It's not going to happen.
I think further too is that if the plan is not fully engaged, where teachers can be more, or teachers are more engaged as far as teaching the children, a lot of time parents are not up to par with the math and the different classes that are being taught. So many parents almost would need to sit in some of those classes themselves just to understand how to help their child. It's difficult when you look at that some of the math, even the way of teaching the style is different than where it used to be many years ago. So parents almost have to go back to class themselves. In order to,
I went back to class with mine. I went to class with my granddaughter's teacher because they was on the virtual learning, right? So I'm in the background listening, talking. So I knew that she wasn't quite understanding everything. And I'm sitting there like, what is she talking about? I don't know what she's talking about. So when it was over with, I just stepped right up to the computer and I said, I don't understand what you was teaching. And I don't feel that she quite understand what you was teaching. So I need a tutorial myself. So I need to set up a time that you can come back on the computer and then you're going to teach me in brief what you was doing. And that's what I had to do with the math. It's called mental math. And I said, well, I will be in the nut house by the time I learn how to do this math, because I've never seen any math done like this. I said, when I was going to school, we put the two numbers, one on top, one at the bottom, and we subtracted. Now you got to do a line and all of this other stuff. And it was so stressful just for me trying to learn how to do it. I could imagine what the kids are going through, because I was like, what is this? But if you're not a type of parent that if you don't understand and you don't get on teachers to show you how to do it, then your kid is going to be lost. I'm sorry. Parents have to speak up. You have to find out what's going on and how to do that work. And if you don't know how to do it, then you find someone who can do it for you, teach your kid or tutor them or whatever. You, at this point, you got to save your own kids. I'm sorry. You have to save your own kids.
They're pushing to have the schools open because there's a lot of parents too that have not been showing interest in their children up for the classes. The kids are not signing on. They're not doing any of the work. So they're definitely falling behind. So that's why they feel like it's very imperative to open these schools as well, because the kids are not doing what they're supposed to do. Unless you do have a parent that will enforce it and make sure, okay, I'm going to make sure my kid's on. I'm going to do the best that I can.
I think I missed your last comment. What you just said.
Oh, well, I just quickly, I'll just say that I was just saying that, the school systems want the schools to open up. They feel it's imperative to do so because a lot of the kids was falling behind because either they were not signing on for the classes, they were not participating. So it's better to have them in the school, a body in the school, and they're getting something rather than nothing.
Or not getting anything. Exactly.
Yeah, it is one of those things that I think each parent have to look at this and decide, what's best, and how are you going to make to help your child out the most, in order to help your child to stay abreast, because if not, it's almost you're already at a losing at the start where you it's like a no win situation. It's a tough battle. Maybe not, I shouldn't say no win, but it would be a tough battle to stay abreast if the parents doesn't know the material, two, they working and doesn't have time to get in to learn the material to help their child. But you really have to look at, I think, is that one is that schools really should be looking at giving parents some options that help them to make the best decision on how can they best help their child. They would know their child. They would know their learning behavior, their learning style. And so it is important that parents must engage now. This is not the time to be on the sideline. This is not the time just about, I'm going to just let you go. Your child will fall behind and they won't get the material that they need in order to be successful in at that level. So I think it would go back to what we were saying earlier, that this is a time when that parents have to engage. Go back to the basics of helping your family, helping along with. There's a lot, like I said, at stake. Some are trying to work, and some are still trying to teach, and some are trying to do a lot of these things that they're putting together in order to help your family. But parents, this is not the time as a parent, particularly if you have a child in grade school, middle school, or high school, not the time to sit on the sideline and expect the school to keep your child at the park. You must engage. You have to engage. For me, when we were always as parents that made sure that we stayed connected to the school, that we went to the PTA meetings, we talked to teachers, we wanted to see how they progressed. And that was even well before our sons are all grown now. They're finished college, some went on, got master's and doctor's degree. They're finished. But as parents, it was important for us to stay engaged and not just leave it up to the school, but to make sure that we was active in the church, in the school system as well, that we knew what was going on.
But see, if you're an active parent, trust me, people don't believe me when I tell them this. When you're an active parent, they take more interest in your child because they see that you are interested in your child. One, two, they know you're going to be up there in their face if things are not getting, if the child is not getting what they're supposed to get and everything. Yeah. Because they have a lot of kids. Each teacher has a lot of kids that they have to look at. So you got to help the teacher as well. The teacher needs you just like you need the teacher. So it's a partnership. You have to be at those meetings. You have to be there to make sure your child got the books they're supposed to have, making sure how they doing in the classroom, or are they paying attention in the class. You got to be on top of everything. That's why I say sometimes that's why our kids fall through the cracks. See, when I tell parents stuff, I'm not telling you anything that I heard. I'm telling you what I have seen with my own eyes, how kids fall through the cracks. Because when you're not on top of things, that's what happens. And then when June comes and the child is not graduated, now the parent is in your office shaking their hand and hips about my kid is not graduated. So now we wonder, well, what was you doing all of these months that you didn't know the child wasn't graduated? Because the school lets you know, you get the report card or whatever. But if you don't come up to pick up the report card and stuff, then that's what happens, because now you haven't been in communication with the teacher or the principal. It doesn't matter whether they think you crazy or not. Look, I am known at my daughter's school as Grandma Shannon. They know me. The principal knows me. The teachers know me. When I'm coming, oh, hi, Grandma Shannon, or whatever, because I volunteer in the school as well. Because I know what can happen to kids. I know how they fall through the cracks. You have to save your own children. I'm sorry. I tell parents this all the time. Stop waiting and thinking the board is going to do everything. So even with this virtual learning, you have to make sure you want to protest, you want to fight, you don't want to open the school. I can understand you don't want to send your kids back to school, but then you better make sure that they are teaching that virtual learning those major subjects that those kids are going to need when it comes time to take that test. Not coming on no hour and a half just to review everything and then turn it over to the parent. They have to be teaching those classes to teach.
I think there's another piece that parents should consider is not just waiting till the report cards come out. There's the thing called progress report, and you ought to be following up on a weekly basis on how your child. Even now is even more imperative that parents are really staying connected to keep up on their progress and how whether homework is being met and being turned in, whether they're meeting the additional, any type of additional classes or additional material that they can send, that they can turn in order to help their grades. Parents, it's important that they stay connected to the progress throughout the school year, not just whenever the report card comes, because that's only looking at from perhaps a few months there, but the progress is something that happens during every week. Or every week, the teachers should be sending out something on a progress on a weekly basis or bi-weekly on this is how this child is doing. And you should be able, parents, and even if it's virtual, they should be able to log in, see what they look like, see what grades, see what homework is turned in. See, don't wait until the report card come out. Then all of a sudden that you find out little John has got a D in it, but little John is not turning in his homework. You can catch little Johnny early before the report cards come out in order to see where he's coming up short at.
Mm-hmm. And this is the time where you involve the church and everybody, because if you need help with your child, then reach out to the church, reach out to the pastor, because there's always someone in that church. There's a teacher in that church that might can do tutoring for your child or whatever. We all now got to come together to help each other. You know, if you're a dedicated teacher, you're going to do what you have to do to make sure your kids are taught whatever they need during this time of crisis or whatever. If you're a dedicated teacher. Now, it's just like with any other career. They talking about the bad cops. We got teachers that don't want to teach either. They just there to collect the or whatever. We have to sort out the good ones. Like with the cops, all cops are not bad. So let's don't say they all bad because they're not. Wean out the ones that don't do bad things or whatever. That's the same thing with education. You got teachers that shouldn't be teaching because they're not teaching your kids because they don't care. If they see you don't care, they don't care either. They just there to get their check or whatever. But during this time of this crisis, we got to come together, and family members have to help the kids in school if they need the extra help tutoring. If you know how to tutor or whatever, church people can do that. So it all blends together. This is the time that we need to come together, not separating and talking about each other and all that kind of stuff.
I know in our church we have a college professor that teaches math, and he pretty much, I mean, you're talking about someone who's very strong in math. And on top of that, we have some young people who have graduated from college you can help out. So there's some resources. We just have to make sure we use those resources, take advantage of those resources, reach out to try to get help. If you don't know, just don't settle for, I don't know, and that's it. But as parents and as well as individuals, that we help one another. I would go back to the point that you mentioned about cops, that all cops, you're absolutely right. There's what I consider is just like any career, there are good folks and bad folks. And whenever we don't weed out the bad ones, they get wrapped in with the good one. It makes even the good ones look bad. By and large, we believe most are police officers doing their job, trying to do the right thing. But when there are those who are doing the wrong things, they need to be weeded out. They need to be pulled out, just like any career. Doesn't matter whether you're cop, whether you're a preacher, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, there are always some bad folks in every career that we hide behind the title. But we need to weed out the bad folks and not just allow them to be hidden within the basket of all the good ones.
Well, I just want to say this before we have to go concerning the cops. About 5 years ago, maybe a little over 5 years ago, 2 cops and the two white cops saved my granddaughter's life. We was on our way from the airport in the car. All of a sudden, her eyes were going back in her head. Things started happening. We pulled over. We didn't know what was going on. We got out of the car. Everybody's screaming and hollering, and everybody's scared. I mean, that was the scariest day of my life. We outside of the car. We were screaming. We were hollering. We didn't know what was going on. So we had her in the arms. We didn't know what to do. So, my brother called the ambulance. We had to wait for the ambulance. But while we was waiting, that's why I tell you the power of God. So don't tell me that there's not a God. We was standing there. My friend was holding her, and Bree started turning blue. She started turning blue. And the lady said, "Oh my God, she's turning blue." Some lady, I don't know who it was. I couldn't find her afterwards. That lady stepped up and started praying. I ain't never heard nobody pray like that lady was praying. And that lady was doing some praying. And the next thing we looked up, these two officers drove up in a truck. I don't know where they came from. I don't know if they had wings or what. They just pulled up out of nowhere, jumped out of the truck, grabbed the baby and everything. They put her in the truck. I don't know what they was in there doing because we couldn't get in the truck. And then next thing I know, he came out with her and he said, "We got her breathing. So we're going to get her to the hospital." By that time, the ambulance drove up. They jumped in their truck and we jumped in the ambulance. And I don't know how fast they were driving through that street to get her to the hospital. And when we got to the hospital, she still wasn't in the ambulance. She wasn't saying anything. She looked like she wasn't breathing. And the guy said, "Well, she's breathing. Just hold on." We got her there. And maybe about 15 minutes after they worked on her, she started crying, which that was the best cry that I had ever heard in my life.
Go ahead and hear her cry.
Those two officers, that's why you would never get me to say that all policemen are bad. These wasn't no black, these were two white officers. And look, I thank them, and I think about them all the time for saving with the grace of God and that woman praying like that they saved Bree's life that day. That I'm telling you, that was the scariest day that I have ever faced. And I said, no, these officers helped save my granddaughter and everything, because if they hadn't pulled up, I don't know what would have happened. So we were waiting on the ambulance wasn't there. They just came out of nowhere past us. But that lady was praying like I ain't never heard nobody pray like that before.
She
prayed. So we turned around and tried to find the lady. She was gone, for the crowd started dismissing and stuff. So I said, I never heard nobody pray like that before. And when she started, I'm telling you, officers came, God sent them two officers there. You can't tell me.
That was an angel sent by God.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm telling you, and when you looked around, she's gone. She was there for that assignment.
Yeah,
pray that child.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she was breathing and praying. She was screaming.
Oh my God, she was praying. Wow. She was praying the blood of Jesus.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, them officers just like appeared. Like how you just look up and somebody's there.
Yeah, it was the officers in the emergency service truck. They had emergency service. It wasn't the regular cars. It was the emergency service truck. So they had an oxygen tank and everything in the truck.
And they grabbed her and started working on her and everything, and she was barely breathing on the way to the hospital. The guy said, "Well, just hold on, we should be there in a minute." And then they started working on her. So about 15 minutes had passed by, and then after a while, she started crying. And then the doctor said, "Well, she's gonna be all right," like that. So that's why I say you're not gonna get me to go against people that do good stuff. No. But we got bad people and we got good people.
Yeah.
And we just need to weed the bad ones out and keep the good ones. Because you can't, in any career, they're like that. Teachers are the same thing. You got teachers in there that do not teach them kids and don't care nothing about your kids. I don't care what they do. I know for a fact. But anyway, don't get me excited because I get excited when you start talking about
when you start talking about the schools.
Don't get me started about the school. Well, Pastor, I want to thank you so much for joining us for our show and our after show. And we want to thank everybody again for tuning in. And you take care. And we'll be in North Carolina soon to get some ribs.
We'll do one of those. since we can't get you, we just have to do one of these type like that.
I know. while I'm sucking on my rib, I'll be like, okay, all right, okay, it's okay. But
Look,
take care, man. Thanks for joining us.
I've thoroughly
And hopefully we'll see you soon.
I enjoyed the conversation tonight, and I pray that your views and those who have heard will allow this to resonate in their spirit, that and that they're going to do even greater, work even harder. Parents will work even harder.
Yes.
Ministries will work even harder to reach others that use this time that God has given us, not just a time of being stagnated, but a time that, and asking God, what are you showing us that we can be what you will have us to be? Enjoyed a great conversation tonight. Love both of you ladies. Appreciate it.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Likewise.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.